my first film review, I'd like to start by going back to a golden era of wrestling. See, in the 80s and 90s, wrestling was bigger than most major sports and became a large part of people's TV consumption. Being a big fan of large muscle action heroes like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, and of course He-Man, it was only inevitable that I would be led into the wonderful and weird world of wrestling. I still remember the very first wrestling event I ever watched, which was a WWF pay-per-view called Royal Rumble in 1990. It captivated me as a young man by seeing wrestlers take bumps and deliver moves that you would only generally see in comic books or action movies. See, the wrestlers during this show was filled with larger-than-life characters, like the Ultimate Warrior, Bret the Hitman Hart, Jake the Snake Roberts, the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, the Big Boss Man, Andre the Giant, the always charismatic Macho Man Randy Savage, and the wrestler I would be introduced to who would become one of my favorites at that time, Hulk Hogan. I remember vividly when the Royal Rumble was nearing its conclusion, and it was only Hogan left to defend himself against ravishing Rick Rude and Mr. Perfect. See, as most children at that time, I thought everything I was watching was real and not scripted. I remember thinking that Hogan was toast, as he had no chance against two other opponents who were teaming up against him. But after making a comeback and eliminating Rick Rude, and then Mr. Perfect, I thought to myself, this guy was incredible and must be the strongest dude in the world to come back against those odds. So then you can imagine how excited I was when I discovered the 1991 movie Suburban Commando on VHS a few years later at my local video store. Seeing one of my favorite wrestlers starring in his own film alongside none other than Doc Brown himself, Christopher Lloyd, in a sci-fi adventure was something that was tailor-made for a kid my age in the early 90s. Now, I'm explaining all this to give you some context to why it is I like this film, as nostalgia plays a big role when looking back at these older films that are not necessarily widely loved. I understand that nostalgia plays a big role on why we love the films we do, but I'm only human, and I come at this review with a full understanding of my own personal bias. So as the movie begins, we see a very familiar shot. Our hero is then introduced as Shep Ramsey, played by the immortal Hulk Hogan, on a mission to rescue President Ashina from the evil clutches of General Suda, performed by William Ball. General Suda then gets his hand cut off by some sort of card, giving Ramsey the chance to escape and detonating the ship behind him. As Ramsey is gearing up for his next mission,
okay, how about a big bug hunt with creatures that bleed acid?
Take that!
he's then told to take some leave after failing to rescue the president. So Ramsey decides to head out to Earth for a while to recharge his simian crystals.
We could construct a device to collect their high-energy photons safely. These photons could then be injected into the dilithium chamber, causing crystalline restructure. Theoretically.
We are then introduced to Charlie Wilcox, played by the great Christopher Lloyd, along with his two kids and always supporting wife, Jenny Wilcox, played by Shelley Duvall. The character of Charlie Wilcox is an architect who finds great difficulties with conflict and just wants a promotion from his jerk of a boss, played by the always great and underappreciated Larry Miller.
Yeah, they're just... Still allergic to tuna?
Ramsey later lands his shuttle on an abandoned 70s disco nightclub.
Earthlings. Now where'd I put that transformer?
And here is where we begin our fish out of water story.
What is that doing? Huh? What are you doing here? What are you, huh? You unbelievable!
Having the movie focus solely on the adult characters in an early 90s children comedy like this was actually quite refreshing, as most kids' movies of this period focused more on the children and their misadventures. This movie rather rightfully focuses on the family man Charlie Wilcox, who suffers from low confidence and struggles to stand up for himself, which can be very relatable for some of us. Through being introduced to a space hero, Chef Ramsay, and being entangled in the middle of an intergalactic battle, Charlie discovers his inner strength and becomes assertive by the end of the film, giving him the courage to finally quit from his dead-end job, and also blowing up some traffic lights for giving him a red signal. I know it's a very simple premise, but it works well in a movie like Suburban Commando. The joy of this film comes from how these two worlds, a quiet suburbia and a galactic war, collide. I believe it does the sometimes cliche fish out of water stick that we've all seen before quite well, probably due to the huge size of Hogan and just how over the top his acting can be.
Wow! I found a good one.
We are also treated with having another iconic wrestler on screen, The Undertaker, playing one of the bounty hunters who was only introduced into the WWF just a year before the release of this film. Also, for some reason, we are shown a Ghostbusters PKE meter that's used to track down Ramsay's missing weapon that was actually also used in the 1988 John Carpenter film, They Live, that also starred another WWF superstar of that time, Rowdy Roddy Piper. Now, seeing Christopher Lloyd cosplaying as RoboCop and then instantly regretting his decision is just priceless.
I can hurt you. And I bet you can stop bullets too, huh?
No, wait, please.
It also occurred to me when watching the film recently that when General Suda reveals his true form at the end of the movie, he looks like a mix of the Predator and that vegetable gremlin from Gremlins 2. And something about the look of the bounty hunter shuttle just screams out Starbug from Red Dwarf. I like this film, but I'm fully aware of its faults, like the special effects aren't great even for early 90s standards. Hogan's performance is not always up to scratch.
Come on! Level out! Stabilize! Stick with me!
And the comedy is sometimes goofy.
Oh, what is this, a tag team?
You're a dead man, Ramsay.
Or just outdated.
What are you, nuts? This is the 90s. We're gonna sue you.
I would still consider this as one of Hogan's best performances outside of Rocky III. But that's, I guess, probably not saying much. And Christopher Lloyd is always great to see on screen.
Christ! I was frozen today!
I really must say how much I enjoy the intensity of Hogan's character over the backdrop of this relatively peaceful and quiet suburban neighborhood. And finally, I must say that Larry Miller would probably be the standout of the movie, as he plays the guy you love to hate on point.
I almost kissed you, but I wouldn't.
I can understand that someone who's not a fan of Hulk Hogan or even wrestling may not find much enjoyment from this film, as this was originally a big part of what attracted me to this movie in the first place. But even so, I think you'll find some fun 90s nostalgia, mixed with good campy science fiction.
You just got married! Whoa! This is cool! You two are so cute together, you know? We got the special honeymoon burger for just newlyweds like yourself.
And genuinely funny fish out of water gags.
I said take a seat. My, what a big one. Oh, funny. That's real funny. Put that down. Shame on you.
It might not be everyone's cup of tea, but for a wrestling nut that loves old school sci-fi, starring one of my favorite wrestlers, along with one of my favorite actors, this is a movie that has me coming back time and time again. Thank you for listening to me ramble on, and I hope to see you all in the next episode. Take care, and good journey.
Say good journey.